see if I don't have with me the list with people's phone numbers.
You are all. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Have a good meeting.
I hope so. This is true. Do they all forget it's at 5?
Or it says 5:30 on the agenda.
Oh, no.
Well, all right, well, given that,
Oh, dear.
we kind of just said, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Okay, well, that
Thank you
might
for that.
explain it. Sorry, guys.
I know, and it's like,
How did
I
that
got left
happen?
work early.
Well, if anybody is happened to be watching or listening to us, we will. We do adjourn, well, we haven't really.
No, you haven't.
Yeah,
You
so
haven't convened, so you don't
we
need
haven't
to
convened.
adjourn.
Doing-
Did that happen? Oh, you know what? Maybe it got carried over when we had to have it at 5:30 because
Right,
we were staying out of the way of
the
the select board meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah. Ah, good point.
so how is everybody?
Good.
Cold.
Are you still cold?
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Did you watch?
Yeah, no, I've discovered that I don't mind heat as much as I used to, and I wear a jacket a lot later in the spring than I used to,
Yeah.
I'll give it that.
I mean, I turned off my heat, but, you know, and I have my window open at night. Because, you know, it still heats up in my bedroom and I like it cold at night, you know.
That's supposed to be healthy for you to sleep in a cool room.
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, I used to love it at 58. Now with the heat pump, it gets too hot for me. No.
I lived without electricity for 18 years and heated with wood stove. I lived in a log cabin and it wasn't a log home, it was a cabin.
Mhm.
And I'd wake up in the morning and the nails coming through, holding the roof on with a frost hanging off them.
Yeah.
I actually froze Listerine one time and it was 8 feet away from the wood stove. I mean. I was 18, 19 years old.
Did
at the
you,
time, 40 below zero. You're like, this is the greatest. It doesn't get any better.
Did you have a thermostat? Did you know what the temp was inside?
No, I had one outside. I figured it was the same temperature, pretty much out, but yeah, it was nice. While it lasted,
Where was this?
in Albany, New Hampshire. It's a road called the Kangamogus Highway, cuts right through the White Mountains and back in the late 70s and stuff, it was pretty much unknown. I mean, not a lot of traffic. It ended up. I decided if I was gonna listen to traffic all day, I might as well have electricity and running water.
Oh. So. Well, one thing you could do if you like, I was at this community resilience resources workshop. And they had all kinds of handouts. So this one, I haven't had time to look at it, but it looks cool.
Yeah.
And it's, I think they're planning. It's a little difficult to see who exactly published it, but apparently they're connected with the University of Maine and have a bunch of other co-sponsors. And I think they're planning to publish it every year. So.
So things that worked, things that tried, things that didn't work.
Yeah,
So
so it has categories of starting a new municipal or regional climate adaptation initiative, assessment, planning, implementation, evaluation, collaboration and partnerships, integration with existing community activities, funding and financing opportunities, technical assistance, and they have lists of places you can go for all this.
Right,
And professional development opportunities and a bunch of appendices. And there's another one that's supposed to be coming out this month, although I couldn't find it online, called the Coastwise Handbook about how coastal communities can deal with sea level rise, can deal with tidal situations, overflowing roads.
Right.
It's just it was a great workshop, and the only pity is that not more people came. We were almost outnumbered by the presenters and the organizers and all their interns.
Mhm.
So,
I figured, during I have.
no, you couldn't during,
I have my Monday, I'll see if it was on a Monday, but I had scheduled something already.
right,
Mm.
right. So Nancy Goslin and I were there. Link was supposed to be there, but wasn't.
Couldn't make it.
Um,
On another topic, I don't know if you heard on the radio, but they announced the awards for the land for Maine.
and for Maine's future.
And one area got like funding to, put 2,000 acres into conservation. So
Right.
we're
Cool.
talking big projects.
Where was that?
I wanted to go back to the website, and there were there were only 3 things, I think, so that was.
Only 3 grants?
Yeah, but 2,000 acres, my guess is it was a big chunk.
Yeah.
And so I need to check the other 2 to see if there are more to our scale, and go back to see the list of awardees and
Uh-huh.
how we can position it so that your chance of it was all our arguments are good to put in the presentation, put in the grant.
And the grant application,
Huh?
to put in a grant application?
Yes, and
Right, and that's been through this before, and she can help us put best foot
Yeah.
forward.
that would be really nice if we can get, as much funding as we can. And, limit the town involvement to like $17,000, that would be great. I mean, the town, reserve fund as opposed to, and get donations and so forth that we can use as matching.
So. One of the things, suppose that the town went ahead and voted to come up with the money to purchase the land that we're looking at.
Which we earnestly hope they will.
Well, yes, I don't want to get too much into that until the meeting starts, but if they did that now, could they use the money that they use, the money, municipal money? Could they use that in a year and a half to say, listen, we did this for a matching fund?
Yes, an argument to that, the land for Maine's future is, it can go back 2 years.
2 years?
Hmm.
Okay,
I mean, they understand it takes time to raise money,
yeah, no, it's good to know. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah. Okay,
especially with all the competing projects.
well, it would be nice if there was some way, if the town did decide to do this, it'd be great if in a year that we could come up with a method that could leverage that into something else too.
We're gonna vote, if we assume a positive vote, then there is negotiation, paper drawing, when do you think the soonest we could close on the deal would be what, September?
Well, there are gonna be 2 deals, and one could close very quickly, the client.
Yeah, no, I'm just talking about the client, I mean.
To
Jeff,
Smith,
I
yeah.
think, Jeff.
I think it's gonna take some time. For one thing, I've had some back and forth with him about what does he mean? Because,
But Jeff
he
will
had-
be patient, he will wait.
oh, I know, but it's gonna take time to be sure that the terminology we put in the legal paperwork captures the right stuff,
Yeah,
because he doesn't. He said, when he talked about Forever Wild,
yeah.
he said, I can't remember which things I CC folks on and
I
which
think he
not.
needs to know how to development and things like that.
Right, but
because
he
they
doesn't-
Themselves,
Right,
affected some cutting,
So it's not opposed to forest management.
Yeah.
well, exactly, and what I sent a question to Annette and CC Jeff saying, so what does Forever Wild mean?
Yeah, I saw that.
And,
yeah.
okay, couldn't remember what I CC'd who on.
No.
So she wrote back and said, well, Forever Wild has been problematic because for exactly that reason, if you're
Can't put it
trying
in the
to,
path.
Well, I mean, fighting a forest fire even, maybe you're supposed to
Yeah.
let nature take its course. So that isn't what he, you know.
Jeff is
No.
reasonable guy, you know.
Well, and then Jeff responded. What I wanted, he said was, and the irony is that whatever limitations Forever Wild put on where they applied that, it didn't necessarily mean that you couldn't put in parking lots and whatever, which is not what he wants. So he said he's not even clear on how this Forever Wild place could have a parking lot, but
Yeah.
anyway, so what we have to do is put words around exactly the kind of protection he wants, which I'm sure does include, yes, we can take out invasive plants. Yes, we could take out a diseased tree. I mean, whatever.
Right.
So we're gonna have to, that's gonna take time. Back to your first question.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably fairly boilerplate documents that cover most of
But
it.
again, yeah, the judge of the land trust, I'm sure. have released it.
Right. Right.
Should we not talk about all this, given that we are, I mean, we are recording, it's not a secret.
Yeah. It's-
Well, I understand. I
Oh.
don't mind because we're not coming to a conclusion. It's just a discussion on how we,
Yeah,
basically it started because I asked a question about can we utilize the money the town uses in the future?
Yeah,
for our
yeah.
land issue? So,
I forwarded an email, actually, I extracted something from the Camden, library. They sent like a mile-long email of all their activities, and in one of them, it's actually a talk by, I guess, the forest manager of the Camden Park.
Yeah.
And he's going to talk about trail maintenance and stuff.
when's that?
It's yeah, something like that. So it's, and it can be zoomed, so that's good. To go there.
Trails aren't that difficult. Popular trails are difficult.
What's that?
Popular trails are really difficult.
There it is. Okay, and then we'll just hit it again. And the rest is gonna turn out hit what? Up there.
Which one?
Still
Where it
lying.
says recording paused, if you go up there, if you go up there,
That one,
it'll give you, you see the arrow?
Yep.
That's all we need to do.
just did that. When it's enter.
No, don't do anything.
No, but I mean, I thought,
Oh,
like.
no, I don't think you need to do anything but hit it, but we'll see. It'll tell us.
You know,
I think so. Okay. Famous last word.
Have the crowds come into town yet in Rockland?
A little bit,
I saw a big bus, a big tour bus, so I'm wondering if it was a bus that was one of the cruise ships,
Yeah, I don't know the answer. to that. One of the ships did come in today.
Okay.
At least there were people in town today from one of the
It's
ships.
just like some one of those big buses, yeah.
oh, I've seen cruise ships like American Splendor or something,
Yeah.
like, looks like almost like a paddle wheeler, but it's not.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a hotel room in the water going along the coast. Most of the people I meet them are perfectly nice.
Yeah, but they bus them to Camden. I love it. We get the water pollution and they get the business.
Well, typically what happens is, they run around town for a few hours and hardly spend any money. And they leave.
it's like Camden Harbor, they can't, those big ships cannot come close enough
No.
to, and there's no tender
No.
system.
I think Rockland Harbor is the only one around here
Ours
they
is the only
fit
one.
in.
But there is also the issue of pollution and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Many places, even Bar Harbor, are really limiting the ships now.
Yeah.
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 Right, and then the cruise lines are pushing back. Ah, yeah,
You know, and people, because you have tourists who come here, they rent a place, they really spend their time around. And then a ship comes in, and if everybody comes, you know, to the town, suddenly the restaurants are packed and people have to wait. And so it's not really fair to the people who spend extended amount of time, yeah.
But that is one item that people on cruise ships don't spend a lot of money on, is food.
What's that?
When they get on land, they don't spend a lot of money on food because they've been eating all day long.
Well,
No, I talked to some of the restaurant owners in Rockland and they said it just doesn't bring in stuff.
that's a complaint that was voiced and published in the paper.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't complain. I mean, every year I sell one or two decent pieces to the family. Yeah,
Mm.
it's nice, yeah.
Well, you know, any increased foot traffic, I would assume, yeah, for
Yeah.
retailers is a good thing, you know.
Up to a point, but it's like in Rock, like you said, Bar Harbor and stuff, you'll have two cruise ships show up and all of a sudden they have 1,700 people. In downtown.
Yeah.
I've just never personally felt the appeal of a cruise ship.
Cruise ship, no, nice sailing boat, maybe. But
Maybe a tramp steamer.
when my aunt married a guy from Holland. And he worked for Shell Oil, and when he retired, they spent 5 years going all around the world on tankers.
Mm.
You know,
Oh.
super cargo.
Uh-huh,
So
uh-huh,
he had the connections, and
uh-huh.
so 5 years, they just went all over the world, and they kept telling people, say, well, if you're ever in the United States, go visit my sister, you know, my sister. And we get these calls, it happened 3 or 4 times, you know, just in the middle of the afternoon, hey, we met Kate and Core. We're gonna be in Boston, we'll be there on Wednesday. You know. We've met a couple of nice people and a couple that, they probably just offered the invitation to get them off the boat, you know.
I've never gone on a cruise either. But I don't like crowds, so.
Right. I remember when the pandemic started and the cruise ship nightmare. I had a couple different sets of friends who were trapped on cruise ships.
So quarantined on the boat, right?
Right, even though nobody had gotten sick, they were just so scared somebody would.
Right,
They'd go to a port and the port would say, nobody can come
Wow.
off. They would let one friend who was, she was in the Pacific and she's from Alaska. And they would only, they docked in Hawaii, and Hawaii would only let off people who lived there. And they were just trapped out there for weeks or a couple of months. It
Right.
was a very long time.
I know, there's no fun.
Plus, before that, there was Legionnaire's disease.
Oh,
That
on
other,
cruise ships?
yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
Plus all the norovirus that's always rampant.
Yeah, no, I go to see in a petri dish, right, yes.
What a nice thought. Ah. Really?
All right, tick, 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 yeah, we're ready.
It goes faster when you have things to talk.
Yeah, I'm worried enough about, I'm gonna be going. Which is why I won't be at the next meeting. I'm gonna be going to a music festival in Montana. And then I'm visiting friends in Colorado, and then I'm visiting a whole bunch of friends and relations in California. And I'm gonna be in a lot of airports. And I've had all my shots, but I don't know how much help that is.
Wear a mask.
Be fine.
And
Yeah.
has to be good. Yeah.
Mm.
Hello.
What kind of music?
Yes.
Folk music,
Yeah.
all kinds, international. Oh,
Is Andy going with you? He must be, right?
Andy's going because he's working at the festival.
Yeah.
But we also have family in the Bitterroot Valley, so it's a twofer.
Yeah, nice.
Oh, the bid,
Yeah.
no, lucky you.
Yeah.
I
So
worked
we-
for the post office for 3 years. I was paying off the house. So I took a real job. I delivered mail and I joined a union because I'm a union, we believe in unions. And just as we paid off the house and getting ready to quit. This job came up in Montana, I forget the name of the town, but I went and looked on the map, it's in the mountains. And the way you judge a postal route is that how long it is, the number of boxes. That's. The more boxes, the shorter the route, the longer the route, yeah. And this route was something like 186 miles a day, and there was 74 boxes. And
Oh, wow.
through the mountains every day, this is your job, is to drive through the mountains. every day.
Bicycle.
I gotta tell you, I was so close. If I could have convinced Maureen to move to Montana, I would have done it because. Wow,
You didn't sell the piano.
no,
And you work at the post officer, you're like the news deliverer.
it's a wonderful job. If you're all efficient in a given day doing rural delivery. You probably have 45 minutes to an hour that you could waste 2 minutes here and a minute there
Yeah, yeah,
by talking with people. I knew everybody in town.
yeah, that's a great. thing.
Yeah.
And
I knew.
We're only at 5.
I kept looking on site because it was getting.
Is that
It did
5:30?
say
Yeah, it said 5:30.
Apparently a holdover from the time it was true.
Yeah, let me see.
Right.
Well, because I had like the most step between like this and then, and I'm like really concentrating. I was like, 5:30, it says 5:30.
It does say 5:30. We'll fix that next time. So. First, I Theo said she's coming and I don't know any reason Leslie isn't coming, so. And I thought Sally was coming also.
Sally usually shows up, yeah. And let's see if she can hear. I think,
So we know they're in town.
is the ocean coming?
She said I should be back by then and I plan to come. She sent a message to us.
How is it going with all your jobs?
Well, my wife's living in the store.
She is? No, I didn't know.
She's what?
Yeah, so my wife's had a retail store for 40 years
Oh,
in Portland mostly. And a store called Motifs.
yeah.
She had it for a brief while on Exchange on Main Street. From 2014 to 17. So after COVID, we really wanted to like, that was our last link to Portland, closed all that, so. I said she would be about 2 years and she'd get the edge, so she's reopened it in Camden Harbor.
Oh,
And London Morse building there,
Oh, yeah, gorgeous.
Oh.
so she's gonna be on that corner store, it's women's clothing and men's clothing. And
Oh.
What's it called?
a little bit of antiques,
it's still motif.
Motifs?
motifs,
Okay.
yeah. So I've been her IT person.
Oh,
Yeah, and I calculated over the last 10 days, I did about 15,000 data entries.
oh,
Because you all have this clothing, this women's polka dot thin stripes, small. Women's polka dot.
It's small.
Small. So that and the glass, so it's been a joy. It's been- But she's very creative, very talented. So I've been doing that and a bunch of other things too.
plus your own businesses, right?
Sorry?
Don't you have businesses of your own?
Yeah, I'm a Shackney ambassador, which is a old legacy brand in health and wellness. And I've been doing that for about 7 years.
Exactly,
Mhm,
seriously,
mhm.
yeah.
My career was in excellence. And I did a lot of stuff in manufacturing and government. And when I found them, I had a big background in sustainability. And somebody asked me to look at them from that perspective of sustainability and ethics, and I was just stunning.
Yeah,
And been doing it for 55 years.
Hello.
yeah.
It was just stunning. So.
Oh, you may not want to
That was, I remember it was all the rage.
slide it over a bit.
Yeah,
Polar catalog.
Yeah.
More contact with my husband these days. than me.
I'm sure he's happy to be done with it.
He said you're very good and very
Yeah.
thorough.
Him too. He was a joy to work with.
Are you done with?
Tell you.
Repairs and the street?
Yeah, they've gone further down. They should be finished in about a week. Did a great job.
Patched it all.
Yeah, they did a good job. They passed the problem in the accuracy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I have.
She contracted around a month ago, and they are in the process of.
Oh, this is the one in,
Yeah.
at the fire?
Telling me they will start making the things in August, at the end of August. And then finish the inside work, and she's told. Is. Like, don't should be.
Oh, wow. Well, she'd already had so many traumas. Yeah.
Actually, international quote, you know, I'm moving my insurance policies to Norman Insurance. One insurance.
About 5:30, folks.
Okay, you want it, and then I'm gonna.
Okay.
Let me go.
So they.
Yeah, but you know, my.
And,
Okay, so if it doesn't explode.
Already.
Well, the June 14th meeting of the South Thomaston Conservation Commission will be called to order.
So I have a. I'm sorry.
Anybody need to make any alterations to the agenda?
Yes. Just a small one. Sent all of you the message that Terry needs to know what volunteers we've had that we hadn't already had on her list.
Right.
So actually, I just want to add that to the agenda to find out who's got the list. And I think it might be Theo, who's the one person not here yet. But anyway, we need to do that.
All right,
Wouldn't that be just the only volunteer? I know, just the cleanup days, right?
Correct. And I believe, well,
I said, we thought it was Theo was at the table, right? She was doing the things there.
so there were two cleanup days. There was the October one.
I don't, I mean, did people sign in, Henry?
I had to admit that there was a sign-up sheet. The number of people that actually signed up was probably leaves it absolutely unrepresentative of who was there.
So.
Yeah, I had failed to see the importance of getting everybody's name that was doing anything. So the question of if I have somebody who's cleaning up the side of their street because they're gonna. It's birthday
Yeah.
cleanup, are they actually a volunteer for
Yes,
the town,
they
or is there somebody that's putting out signs and doing that
No,
stuff?
no, anybody
Yeah,
who
yeah.
does anything,
Okay.
and if you can't find the sign up, but you can remember them, then you can just tell me their name.
Okay, so I'm just making a note for myself is that to put in the to-do list as they build that up for the
All right,
roadside cleanups, is that keeping a list of volunteers is important, not just for the sake of getting
Actually, I
back
can
in
think
touch.
of two
Correct.
right now.
Yeah.
So-
Okay,
and she needs it soon, so. Anybody, I know, for example, that. What's his name, the new couple volunteered,
Peter Nickelberg.
Mecklenburg and his wife, and I'll make sure that they're added. But those are the only new people I know.
Charlotte Bacon and her son Izzy came,
Okay, wait. Charlotte Bacon and,
her son, and his nickname is Izzy, I don't know his real. name. Her son Izzy.
Charlotte Bacon.
So.
I said. Izzy. And Chris. Right.
Was it only me? I never saw an agenda.
No, it doesn't matter because it says
They,
5:30.
no, I sent you a message very late. You probably didn't see it. Yeah, we did send it out. It did not get posted until today. I sent it to Terry a week ago,
No, I
but
got
something
it.
fell
I got it.
through.
I got it earlier.
No, I CC'd all of you, but it wasn't on the website and it didn't go to the listserv,
Yeah.
which is no great loss because nobody ever comes through that source. The one person who does is Nancy Goslin, and I was in touch with her and she can't come. So I'm not worried that anybody, and it's up there now if somebody
All right, so
wants.
you have the names you need.
I,
And any
no,
other-
I have the only names people have given
Right.
me.
Okay, any other changes to the agenda?
No,
All right.
not from me.
Did everybody have a chance to review the minutes?
Hold on a second, Sally. The question was, Terry needs to know the names of people who volunteered at cleanup days for the volunteer insurance
Oh, yeah.
You
coverage.
know some of the people, Sally, I know you won't.
And any names that you can remember because the lists seem to be missing at the moment. Theo may have that one or both, but.
Well, seeing as I can't remember names of people I know very well.
I know exactly.
All right, okay,
Don't help at all.
You see, elderly
Okay.
gentleman just turned 90.
okay,
He
moving
just turned
on.
90. He was part of the historical society.
Moving on, let's see, review and approval. Did everybody get a chance to review the minutes of
Yeah.
May 10th
I make a motion to accept the minutes of.
as presented?
Second that.
I have a
Sorry.
motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Now we go down to old business, report on district foresters, May 15th, visit to the town and land. Town land.
So they wrote a fine report that I forwarded to everybody. So I hope you all had the chance to read it. But essentially talking about techniques, to take care of the land and strongly advising us to hire the services of a consulting firm that are, environmental consulting. And what they would do is map the land, there is the stand, I remember the word, groups of similar trees and so forth. So we get an idea of the species that are around.
Right.
And also they would spot all the invasives and,
Maybe good ways to.
Yeah.
way to make a path. but-
in the past, given the destruction of the main road on the townland, they definitely advised to build a trail that kind of, weaves around it to give time to the other sections to, be restored either through, real work or through time. And so consulting services would be a one-time cost, at the beginning, and then it would build essentially a long-range plan. And, we can implement that step by step according to our manpower, volunteer and otherwise, and according to our resources. And on top of that, they obviously strongly advise to hire, contract with a forester. And they gave a few names for that, so they can all be interviewed, and same thing, the consulting firm would have to be invited, and they would give a presentation of what they could do and give us an estimate of what it could cost.
Right.
And then again, we can go for grants to get that.
All right. So it ends up being as a conservation commission member, I'm fully in favor of doing all that. It's just a question of how much does it cost? and stuff like that.
I mean,
So
we
it-
can initiate a first meeting where, it's introductory and we get the information, they would tell us what they can supply and what they can do and, and then it's
It
for
doesn't
us.
mean we have to do exactly what we could cut it down a bit.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, so they ask for our desires, like how would we envision to use the space, and so forth, like, the issues of, protection against can be debated. Some people are forever wild people, not touching anything.
Right.
And others are in favor of management, including some selective cutting. to allow some of the trees to grow more mature and stronger, and at the same time, some cutting could provide some revenue and,
Also wildlife habitat, you can
Yeah.
change their habitat, stuff
Yeah.
like that. Overall. As a recommendation to go to the town and they can see how much money that is, but one aspect that you brought up, where you're gonna hire somebody because they want to put in a new. They want to change the pathway, the roadway,
yeah,
is a recommendation. I'm just putting this forward as a conversation, as a recommendation to the Conservation Commission, is that when they look at the prices of these various things, is that that's one aspect of it, is before they put that road in, is they should at least do that aspect of it,
mhm,
What do you mean?
as a recommendation.
I'm sorry, that aspect of what?
All right. There's an existing road, and part of the whole deal is they're gonna change where that road goes.
Why?
Well, it goes over.
Because it goes through somebody
No,
else.
we're into two different things.
Yeah, but, no,
But
but,
the,
Well,
if
let
we're
me look.
just, Catherine was dealing with the forester who was looking primarily at land the town owns now.
and we also went to just.
Okay, but that's a separate question.
Yeah, we were essentially
Yeah.
talking about the town road, which is totally destroyed right now.
Correct.
And,
in parts.
so, obviously, we need to do something about it. So, if there is an emergency at the other end of the
Right.
plot. we
I think
need-
that's kind of my point is that if the town finds that it doesn't have the funds, which is understandable to do the entire study, is to study how to repair and.
Yeah.
Redirect that road is a place that is worthwhile spending money.
Well, the workshop I was just mentioning, I sent an email to everybody talking about a workshop on how, to do trail maintenance.
Yeah.
And, he mentioned, ways to protect trails from water damage and all these things. So these, once you understand how it's done, somebody from the George River Land Trust could come and, kind of direct volunteer labor, but, with
Yeah.
people, many people have, equipment and we have chainsaws and we have, I can do work. I
Right.
would like that.
Okay.
And, so,
But we're away from that.
we are away
Yeah,
from
no,
that.
it's a way
But
it's all,
anything that gets done needs to be recorded, how many people, how many hours, because that has a monetary value that can be used for matching
Right.
purposes, so,
And it may be in the overall scheme of things, it's a phased thing.
yes,
Right.
exactly,
It
you know.
definitely will be a phase
There will
thing.
be a long range plan from that consulting firm, and then we're gonna go, beat each step by each
Yeah.
step,
right,
I think what you were talking about, Henry, but I'm not sure, is there's, I can't remember, there's one section of land that I think, Plethora would rather us not go over. It's
Yes.
a very little corner that we could easily skirt, I think. I mean, not easily, but.
Right.
My point, I tried to talk to him and he seems like a very nice, reasonable man, is, if we could still use the Stump Dump Trail, then we could build a loop.
Yeah, well, the Stump Dump Trail belongs to us,
yeah,
so that's.
Except there's a section that goes,
One.
You know,
little
there is a
section,
bit.
And I think, and it's relatively small, I
Okay.
think.
right, all right.
That's something I think we can. work on.
Anything else on that?
no,
Okay.
that's it.
I'll tell you, these people love their job, though.
Oh,
Don't
yes.
they? Oh, my
it's-
goodness,
it's
these two
so
guys.
nice.
They're talking away every little leaf.
Taking their knives and stuff to cleaning up.
Look at this, and saying,
I can't pass bittersweet, I'm pulling it out of the
They
ground.
just- There's little worms. He said, oh, those aren't the dangerous ones. Those are good. And they just talked. And I said, you guys love your job. Oh, yes, we love our job. They really do. They're very
Nobody
nice.
has to come back.
Very
It's a
nice
pity you
guys.
couldn't video the whole thing.
I know. They're very nice guys. Very helpful.
I'm gonna move on to B, update concerning Klein and Smith property offers.
Yes. I'm not sure anybody needs an update if you've been reading your emails.
Right,
It's going to go to the town.
Yeah.
The one thing I'm not entirely clear on is whether the select board wants us to do anything at town meeting to present it to people who have managed not to hear it, a word about it until then.
Yeah.
But
Well, it was
that's,
in the paper, right?
it was in the
Yeah.
paper.
Yeah,
It's been,
There was the town, public information
Mhm.
session that was recorded. It's online in the YouTube. There was everything on the question should be posted on the website. So the information is really available.
There's
Right.
always gonna be those people that
But
say,
there-
what? What is
that's
this? We
right.
heard nothing
There
about
will
it."
be some, and apparently it's a minority of the town that's on the listserv. And I don't know if, how many of that minority even go to the website. Maybe they read the paper, so there will be people who have managed not to hear a word about it.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's important that we're there. Well, I'm assuming all of us would be there anyway, but to answer questions that.
Right.
Right,
Yeah,
but
I just,
I'm gonna touch base with your husband again.
Yeah.
To see how they would like it handled, and I think the
Right.
main thing is. We have those Qs and As
Mhm.
that cover just about everything
Yep,
that
you certainly
anybody's been
do.
able to toss at us.
yeah,
Are there
So,
any copies of those?
well, Terry's, I think, putting them in
In the packet.
the packet for
Okay,
the
good,
town meeting.
good,
Cool.
good.
I'll
Okay,
check with
that's-
her about how many.
yeah, just as long as
Yeah.
the selectmen are aware that.
So chances are, if there was an opportunity, like a brief time, because it's a long meeting, whatever, to just say, if people have questions, look at the Qs and As, and if you still have questions,
Mhm.
ask
Yeah.
one of the Conservation Commission.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, and then we'll all cross our fingers and they'll vote.
It's a very, very good deal.
It certainly is.
Yeah, I found a very good question at town meetings was, is anybody opposed to this? You know, it comes up. And just ask that question right up front. Anybody opposed to this? And if no one answers, just vote.
Yeah, or you're opening yourself up.
I know.
Well, I don't understand, because you're gonna get those questions, if they are, you're gonna get those questions anyways. And it's like,
Okay,
so that you're, enough said on that?
enough said.
Okay, update on Community Resilience Committee, including requests from South Thomas, Conservation with a letter of support. And it's solar.
And I mean, we're sort of in the process now to put the proposal in July 7th.
Yeah,
So the ask was to get a letter of support, which thank you very much for editing, and that's where we're at right now. You know, that's the next big thing is, you know, putting in the proposal.
okay. Any indications?
In terms of.
I mean, have other grants been issued that are similar, or
I
is it still too early overall?
We really need to tap back into Meg, who's Rasmussen from the Midcoast cog.
Yeah,
She's been tied up on other submissions and she's moving back into us. So,
okay,
I know that July 7th is when we have to submit.
okay,
And presumably we'll be along with everybody else because that's the cycle.
right, okay. All right, so enough on that.
Well, on
Well,
the letter. Has everybody had a chance to read the revised
Yes.
letter?
Yes.
I saw one small edit.
Yeah.
I would just, at the bottom, I'd say VSTCC. Picky. Does anybody else want any changes?
Does anybody want what?
Any changes to the
No,
reject?
no, I'm happy with it. As
We're looking at the same one, right?
far as I know, yeah,
My revision
Right.
today?
yeah.
Okay, all right.
I make a
So,
motion that we accept the revised letter to be.
I'll make a second. I have a motion, any discussion, I should ask you. Okay, I have a second, all those in favor? Thank you very much.
can we just the last
I
can we get
love your letters, by.
so I will make my little change
Okay,
and send it to you.
It
Now, how to
needs to be
just-
printed on letterhead from the town.
This I don't know how to do, if you can believe.
maybe we can get it to Terry.
Yeah,
Okay, well,
Then we need to go see.
she's so busy.
well, those, I mean, I asked Anna. She can-
Hannah could do it.
Yeah,
Yeah, if Hannah could put it on letterhead. And then email it to Henry to sign, and then. What?
Send it back to me as a PDF if you can do that.
Yeah,
or
can
just-
you- can you make a PDF?
I can pick it up and scan it and send it.
right, yeah. It might be just as easy, maybe just once she gets
I
it.
think
comes
it
out.
should have been
Yeah.
original, probably,
Yeah.
I think it would look better.
Yeah.
So just let me know when that can happen. Mondays and Tuesdays, the only days when I can't be anywhere here, but
All right, and I'll let her know for myself here.
just let me know, whichever is convenient. If I need to meet up here, to get the signed copy or elsewhere, I'll take it, scan it and get it to Colin.
I'm not
Just the
clear
machines
on
on
where
line?
Henry signed.
Mr. Michelle.
What I was gonna do is have that copy sent to the, here, they'll print it out on letterhead, I'll just come down and sign it here.
Okay, if you can come down and sign it, and Neil can down and collect it.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
all right, so I will contact Hannah tomorrow. I'll just send it to her and say, could you just print this on letterhead?
right,
And let Henry and Neil know.
right, yeah,
When
and
you've done
what I can do, I know that Monday you're busy, but Monday I can come and sign it, and then you'll be sitting here.
Well,
And I can pick
it's
it up.
Wednesday, so which day? You can come anytime, right? You're pretty,
No, at this time of year, well, early I can, yeah. I'm
On
open
your
for business
way.
again. So.
oh, okay,
It's not a
Okay.
problem, I'll just come in Monday, I can sign the thing and then it'll be here. I'm only thinking, I'm saying Monday, if I could get here sooner, great, but I don't know if I will, because Thursday, Friday is.
so what date do you want on it then? Monday? Or do you care?
Oh, why not use the date that we approved it?
Okay, so that's today,
Today,
that's the
okay.
14th.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right,
okay,
update on Knox County Conservation Commission's working group.
yeah. Um. Did we jump? Yeah, okay, very small update. I think they've gone more about for the summer. The last time we talked to you folks about the idea was to have a conference. That was not popular. So that's not going to happen. What they want is to have this be an ongoing, I think, what I understand, an ongoing working group that meets periodically or is in touch with each other whenever to share ideas,
Best practices,
well, best practices to help each other where somebody's already had experience, like with buying land and building trails that we can turn to, things we can collaborate on. And one thing that might be really important if we can pull it off is that there's all this grant money out there right now for things like coping with sea level rise, tidal flooding, any number of resilience things like that. And there may be some where we could do it in a collaboration that might make a more coherent and attractive project for grant applications. So that's the goal. But all these people are terribly busy and it's like herding cats, even putting together a meeting. So just wanted you to know there's not going to be a big conference. It's going to evolve into a different entity that has a different function that I think will serve us well in the long run. So
It's like identifying different skill sets that would be important that exist within the different communities, things
right,
like that.
who's had experience,
Right.
who knows who's got a connection, who's heard of a grant, can we share hosting a lecture series, can we work together on connecting trails, any number of things. Just have an ongoing organization where all the county conservation commissions are in touch with each other and know what each other are doing and where we can combine efforts.
Or in the combined sense of lecturers. That's kind of good to know what other towns, what they may be thinking of and people they may be thinking of inviting to speak. On their
Absolutely.
commission and stuff like that, so you don't tend to double up, but you also tend to back up, you know, or more
Exactly.
information on a topic that was expressed before, that kind of thing, so. I think that aspect of what you're talking about, where it's a little more casual than it's a group that meets the third Wednesday of every month or anything like that,
I think quarterly
yeah.
would be more
yeah,
like,
that's what I was going to
Yeah,
ask.
hard enough to-
Summer is here,
Oh, no.
people are busy.
people are
Right.
very busy. I have had trouble getting people even to respond saying they can't come.
Right,
So I got, because out of the community resilience. when we started getting into the greenhouse gas and we got training that way,
Mhm.
we created between Rockport, St. George, Thomaston, Househead,
Rockland.
Rockland. We created this informal, it's like, okay, this is a great experience, why don't we stay in touch and share? So we said, let's go every 2 months now. You know, that if there's a way to connect that, in other words,
Yeah.
let's not duplicate effort, let's not
Yeah.
have people, right?
Yeah,
Wouldn't surprise me if 1 or 2 of those people weren't in on that conversation. So I'd be happy to kind of put an email out to those, you know, bring people into loop and start discussing, or who in that group has been really keen and interested in conservation matters and have expertise.
Right.
There's some really good expertise in that group.
I think getting a catalog of the expertise that exists in the communities is a
Okay.
pretty great idea.
All right.
It's like you said in that publication, is that there's a list
yeah,
of, places you can get in touch with, people that can help you.
right, but I think Neil's talking about actual community members, not necessarily, these are
Oh, no, I understand,
nonprofits or whatever.
Right.
but it's just knowing they're there can make a difference sometimes.
Right, so, in terms of finding bodies for that to become a commission, like a Knox County, not an informal, or
Yeah.
whatever that's gonna be, it just seems to me that there's some, just like we have with the community resilience. there's
Well,
other-
all of these groups, if there would be a way that we're all keeping each other informed
Yeah,
and multiplying rather than duplicating,
yeah,
you know.
Do we have the names of the conservation commissions in other towns? Do you know, we have any information on that, who they are?
Oh, yeah,
Do you have all that?
yeah.
I would like to see that.
Oh,
sometime.
okay.
When you, if you're.
It's easy enough to share.
Again, you know, it's available on the various town websites, just like we have all the names of who we are here posted on the website of the town. If you go to St. George, there is a.
I'm just,
conservation-
I'm
Well,
hoping I
yes,
just get.
but
Yeah.
I don't want to go searching.
I've
want a
already
piece
done
of
it.
paper.
You don't have to reinvent the
That's what I
wheel.
was gonna say, if someone's already done it, I'd love to have a list.
All right.
Although, of course, it's a moving target,
Oh, of course, I know, yeah.
you know, the membership
years.
changes
Yeah.
a
But it's
lot.
just a start, we should have some. and-
Absolutely.
Next on my list is discussion of procedures for handling correspondence. So to start with, I'm gonna say there's 2 correspondence, there's incoming and there's outgoing correspondence. And so let's talk about incoming correspondence first. So if a letter or a request or a written request or anything else comes into the office, I don't know where it ends up. I don't know if this town's ever received a letter to the Conservation Commission.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Well, the only one we had, and I don't think we ever really finished it, was
Yeah,
the one from near the.
The person,
It was really kind of simple, there's no beaver there anymore, so now there never
so
was,
now there's no water.
there's no
oh,
water,
the
but
beaver
they,
left?
I must have, because.
I think the state removed it, but
Oh,
yeah, I'm just guessing.
Or coyote.
But I don't know if that.
That's the excuse I always use.
Somebody should.
It was more than one beaver. They live in large family
Yeah,
groups.
So, all right, so incoming correspondence, it's not always necessarily a letter, it's sometimes an email.
it's
An
more
email that
often
could be
an
sent to
email.
Any one of us, so in
Well,
Well,
it sounds
it's
to me
a good-
like this might be a secretary's function.
Yeah,
What do you think?
but I don't think. you
If
should
they
have
knew
to
how
do
to
it.
reach me.
Well, if any of us
receive something.
received, I mean, we're trying to, what we're doing right now is trying to create a process.
Yeah.
And if the process was, if anybody gets one,
We forwarded to you.
forward it.
Well, not to, I'll do that. You have enough. I can take that. If it's just correspondence, not this stuff, but if it's just correspondence, I can do the.
All right, so
Okay.
if somebody sent me an email.
All right,
If
okay,
somebody
so
sent
that
any
you
member of
can be
this
what's
board.
called the corresponding secretary.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. I have a.
And
Yeah,
Linda
somebody-
is the recording secretary. There are
Because
groups that
what
have
happened with
that.
that letter is I answered it, and then I thought, why should, because I
Uh-huh.
don't mean, it was all a little confusing. It came, how did you get one?
Yeah, it was an email, but I can't remember how it came to my attention
mine
and not to
too.
other people.
I think everybody.
No, I think it came to the Conservation
But I
Commission.
answered it.
And I answered one.
Did you too? So
Yeah.
that in itself should be.
We need a procedure.
That's right.
Right, and the procedure being is basically, don't answer it as. an
Yes,
individual
yes.
member.
Right.
Yes.
Right,
yeah.
so the procedure now is that if I received any, or any member here received an email, we get in touch, we send it to you.
Send it right to me.
Don't respond to it, and then
So-
it gets,
Well,
your
Wait a minute.
responsibility is to make sure it ends up in the minutes under correspondence. So this
Yes,
was
I will do
received
that.
from members. such and such.
Well, we could send it to Leslie, CCing the Conservation Commission, then everybody would know it came in. And if anybody happened to know what the right answer was,
Then you could.
Well, I
get in
could always
touch.
bring
I
the.
would suggest
Mhm.
not answering at first, just acknowledging
That's what-
receipt of
Yes.
the letter.
Right.
That already will give people
Mhm.
satisfaction that they are being heard.
Yeah.
And then, if the meeting is not too far off, we can all
So we will
discuss. at
discuss it for the
meeting.
next meeting.
Yeah, no, giving an answer is not.
No, no.
Sometimes the answers are simple and it's not gonna cause any trouble, but the first time you have an issue that has other sides to it, so no answers. Just, if you received it, write them back, I said, I sent it to the. It'll be,
No, I don't do that. I forward this to
Right.
Leslie, and Leslie writes to. the
And I
person.
acknowledge that it has been
Okay.
received.
right,
okay.
that's,
Bring it
and
up.
then,
Yeah,
and
it comes in the next meeting. All right,
so there could
that's-
be almost a standard reply. We
Yeah.
received your communication
Exactly.
and it will be on the agenda for our next
Exactly.
meeting.
Right, excellent.
And
Beautiful.
if you would like to attend in person or via Zoom,
You can,
that
I
would
can,
also-
I can
Right.
write up something.
Okay.
uh,
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
about you draft a standard reply and
I
we just
will.
have a quick look at it?
I will
All right,
do
another-
and so that's out, that's stuff that's coming in now, stuff that's going out for correspondence. We had a fairly good example of it today. A draft was written, a draft was rewritten, a draft, and then it was put forward to accept it as communication from the Conservation Commission. Does anybody have a problem with that?
No, it worked well.
So I'm just doing anything that coming from the
Yeah.
outside.
Right.
Uh-huh,
Yes, right.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
So anything that we're sending out is that it doesn't get sent out under the letterhead or under the title of the Conservation Commission unless the board has actually voted upon the contents, accepts the contents of the communication.
It's just
Say that again?
a point I wanted to be clear on. When you send this to the person who is.
Well, I'm gonna draft it and give
Yeah,
it to you
but
guys
when
anyway.
if you CC the Conservation Commission. If anybody has any particular expertise on whatever the
Mhm.
question is, if it is a question, people would have a heads up for thinking about it,
For the next
discussing
meeting.
it with
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah.
Maybe.
yeah.
I don't have a problem with that as long as you don't.
As long as you
Email me
don't
about
jump
what,
in and
you
answer.
start emailing me about what you put in, because then you now all of a sudden you've got a meeting.
So that's why I
taking
think
place
we're
on
trying
the
to
thing,
get
so-
this.
Yeah.
So if everything just comes to me,
Yeah.
Uh-huh,
I'm gonna draft a correspondence that will go out. I'll bring
Okay.
that, bring that next month. Okay it for you guys. So that's gonna immediately go out.
Right.
Once we okay that.
Yeah,
Then we can discuss it, how we're gonna answer it, and let me do it, so it's one person.
Right.
that's great,
yeah.
that's
Okay.
great, thank you.
And well, I'm not trying, I'm just saying it'd be less confusing if, did you get it? You get it? You get it?
Yeah, all right.
If it just goes,
Yeah.
first of all, we don't have that much,
Uh-huh,
I don't think.
Here's what you-
Watch out, I'll offer it, I'll offer this, and they'll start blowing it.
well,
Might be more after the town meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
there might indeed.
I know, I just.
Just after the town meeting.
Then I'll,
All
and then
right,
nothing will go back to them
All right.
until we've all okayed it.
So,
all right, and then I think there's another piece that there just needs to be like a folder in which all the correspondence is kept so that there's a place to go back and find it.
Which would be here.
No, I'm not, Leslie can keep it.
Yeah.
I mean, just the way I keep a whole lot of stuff, that there is no way we're gonna. All the committees in this town do not store stuff in this office.
it's odd,
Uh,
it's odd.
Any kind of folder.
any kind, yeah.
All right, and the other kind of, handling correspondence
Yeah.
is, does anybody see anything difference in sort of straight email? Any difference between receiving stuff by snail mail or email?
I'm sorry.
No. We have,
It's just another way that correspondence and communication happens, is there's letters and there's emails.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that we consider, is there anything special we want to say about emails?
Well, if it's a letter, it should be scanned and then. It's
Yeah.
an email.
Oh, well, as far as creating a digital record of it, yes,
Yeah.
right, yeah, okay.
I think
Uh,
Jeff Smith's land offer was a physical piece of mail that he actually hand delivered.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so any other considerations in correspondence? So we pretty much understand the way it's gonna work.
For now, yeah.
Okay, all right.
We edit it needed.
Fine tuning may be needed later. This is a good start.
We have further discussion concerning priorities for the coming year. I just want to look down at new business for a second, a report on the climate resilience workshop. We kind of, didn't we already?
No, it's
No,
different.
okay, that's different, right? Or it's okay. It makes sense to do it now. Further discussion concerning priorities
Oh,
for
wait a
the
minute.
coming year.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Uh,
I lost where you were.
What we basically have is, currently what we've been discussing is, lectures. Cleanup. And one of the things we've been talking about tonight is I'm gonna call it informal, we're trying to establish, informal relationships with other concerned bodies, because it's not always gonna be limited to people that are on the conservation commission. It could be somebody in the resilience group or something like that, has that interest. All right, so I just call that fostering inner community. Anybody else have anything else they want to add?
Well, obviously land acquisition and central development. And
Right, at this point, if
I
If the
think
town
that
votes to
positively,
authorize-
That's going to be my priority.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was Theo and her idea of the repair workshop in the fall,
Okay, I'll put it down.
not workshop.
I understand what you mean. Repair fair. You know,
Repair.
At one point, somebody mentioned to me, cleanups. Do we want to do more than one a year?
we've been doing two.
Okay, all right, so we're talking, I'm gonna put a S on that.
Fall.
Yeah. I think Earth Day is always a nice start.
Yeah.
That's April, right? We did that in April,
Yeah,
and then maybe August.
and summer people
Or
throw
September.
stuff out too. so,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, wait till the ticks are down, you know.
Well. do they ever?
Not anymore, yeah, they weren't here when I was growing up. I think it was all the swallows that were around from the barns, ate them all.
Oh. Can we recruit more swallows?
I have nesting parrots. Yeah, not, I think it's because we killed all the carrier pigeons, but I don't know.
Mhm.
So I mean, underneath lectures, that's a big topic. There's a bunch of stuff that we want to do. Well, we actually, if the budget gets approved, we actually have money that's in there as a gratuity for the people that, come to speak to us and stuff like that. Well, that's good. But is there anything else that you want to see as a function?
In terms of topics, I mean, we mentioned the garbage thing, what's happening to garbage and recycling from the town,
Yeah, I told you that Skip who's on, my son who's on the other person on the committee.
Yeah.
Besides the collectors, would be willing to come and they talk about recycling and what actually happens to stuff and how it's handled, there and where it goes.
I'd love to see
That'd be
that happen,
great.
especially if it leads to the fact that people spending a little more time preparing the trash before they bring it to the transfer. Because it adds, it allows you to access any value that may exist in it if it's clean.
Yeah.
Right, so, yeah,
is to reduce the amount of trash. I mean, that's a big step. I think people need to move on to.
all right,
that.
so overall, if we're just looking, this gets very particular, it's a particular topic under
So,
election.
yeah.
But the nice thing to consider about is the information on how recycling works and what you can do to help out and stuff like that. That's kind of what he's offering to do, right?
Yeah, well, wherever the questions led, I guess.
Right, okay. All right, well, I'm just gonna put that down as an idea under lectures at this time.
Just to leave it off the subject, we all have compost.
Yeah.
And don't go yet.
Another topic, I know it's becoming kind of out of schedule now, given what the resilience committee has done, but I would have loved to hear a talk from John Fancy from Thomaston about their solar experience in Thomaston. They have actually 2 solar farms. And you know, how it works for them, what they wish they would have done differently, you know, the whole thing. How it worked, how much money they got, how they raised the money. And
So this is a municipal level.
Yep.
Installation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, but if it's community solar, then it's for residents as well.
Yeah.
And it's by no means overtaken by what the resilience.
So
Yeah.
we'd like to have that topic because we have a lot of
All right,
questions.
one of the things I'll say is that if people want, over the next month, come in and, you know, lay out a couple of guidelines about what, or, you know, outlines about what you might like to see. One of the things that comes up is if the town does purchase the land, but it already owns land. And the Conservation Commission has a certain degree of responsibility to the town owned forestry lands, stuff like that, is to pay attention to what's happening. And try to promote within the community, the expenditure of the monies to do the research and stuff on the land, especially if we get the new pieces. It's gonna become pretty important to do that. So I see that as a topic is how the town will utilize its town lands. And the best way to start is to know what's there, as you were saying, so. That's another.
And what you just said, how it relates to what I said. Like, we're talking. I don't, you know, I don't want to plant a solar farm in that town.
Oh, no, I was, this was after the solar farm, no, this
Okay.
was just talking about.
Yeah.
If the town, another issue was if the town ends up getting that, we have a large block of land.
We need to have a talk, and even among ourselves first, what is the best strategy to raise money?
Right,
You know, and
yeah.
how to reach people and how many
Right.
times and so forth.
Yeah,
But that has to be among us first, you know.
for a period, it takes time to do that, but I'm saying is that's an objective in the coming years to really get a handle on how we're going to help the town actually utilize what is, you know.
Yeah. But so, Thomaston and St. George have both been very successful in this very area. We should hear from some,
Okay,
like, they've got they both got town forests that,
Rockport's on their second solar project as well.
excuse me?
Rockport.
Oh, Rockport.
So Rockport, St. George.
That's-
so-
But like the forestry management would be a good talk to get from one of the neighbors, yeah. You know, how do they manage their land?
forestry management, you're right, I
What
like that.
does it take, you know, how much do they rely on volunteer? So that, you know, to raise people awareness, people on the trail. But it's like, they are not just gonna happen out of thin air, you know, it's gonna take.
Right, so- Yeah, if you look at forest management, it's not just a single issue, there's a bunch of issues on it. So if we take that as an overall topic and try to line up three or four lectures related to that topic, it gives us something that runs through. So a property owner like myself, it isn't one meeting. And you go and you listen to 45 minutes and then another 45 minutes of questions, half of which you know the answer to. And so you don't learn a lot, but you go to the second meeting, you learn a little more. I think that strikes me as a pretty good idea right now. I didn't have it a minute ago. It just strikes me as a pretty good idea as a focal point for us.
Yeah, years ago, my husband and I spent a lot of Saturdays going around the state of Maine to meetings of the small woodlot owners
Right.
association of Maine. And that was, great source of information.
Yeah, okay. Cool.
However, I mean, in terms of our lecture series, there's only a handful of people in South Thomaston who are either doing forestry management or thinking about it or in a position to
No, but it's
consider it. There's a few, but I'm not gonna get into forestry management on my 1 acre on Route
No,
73.
the topic would be the town land, I mean. it would have to be
Yeah, okay,
focused
but
on that.
I don't want to have a series of talks about forestry management. I don't think we could get the turnout.
Well, we'll
I-
see.
We're
that.
very
And we-
interested in what we're
yeah.
going to do with the
I
town
think, yeah.
A
we
talk,
already own.
yes,
The problem.
Focused on that.
That Bush Sally And Henry, you know, I don't know if you put your land already in, you know, forest management or. if you-
The argument gets better and better all the
Yeah.
time.
So no.
But, you know, so I think it's something we should look into and maybe not have a presentation, but issue like, you know, through listserv or have the document posted on the website as a resource for people interested in that.
Right,
Okay,
You know, and that would be good, I think a good use of our time to really understand and try to develop a presentation that doesn't have to be given to the public, but, you know, people can get the information on their own.
okay,
Because some of the websites, I mean, they are so wordy and, you know, it's like so convoluted.
I would just like to see a simple list of the people in this town that have land and tree growth.
right,
If
right.
you go to
Oh,
this
that-
map,
we
it's
have that.
here,
Right.
on the wall, yes.
But didn't I made a copy, I know we have that.
yes,
Yeah.
We have that
yes,
somewhere.
we have a list,
We have
and it's a
list
very
somewhere.
short list.
I remember,
I have a
I
spreadsheet.
don't even know where it is. but I
Yeah.
know-
It exists.
Okay, I'm going down to new business.
Can I just,
Yes.
not to go down the rabbit hole on this, but just to mention. We talk a lot about forestry management, but we've got two rivers. And the main industry in this town
Mhm.
rides on those rivers. And so when you're talking about forestry management, it's sort of like. Maybe there's a topic in the speak on the interconnectedness. Maybe there's an issue there in terms of, I remember the town of Hobsbawm, when I started talking about using Dimmolen for the net. And what the runoff would mean to the lobsters on that. type
The
of-
riparian
Right,
aspect of
but
it.
now's had, you know, the fellow over there, they've just discovered PFAS
Oh,
in a well. So. Then it may be part of a bigger topic about conservation.
Riparian
And there may be
interface.
and there may be topics like that.
Yeah, okay, I said that riparian interface, basically what you're looking at there, so, yeah, okay.
Thank you.
And any other ideas, it just gives us the thing, and then we can start trying to manage speakers and stuff like
I
that.
mean, that's already several topics and, you know, how often are we gonna have talks, and especially if we share talks with the other towns.
well,
Well,
it's fine though to
brainstorming.
have
Yeah,
a brainstorming list. And then as a topic becomes timely, or we've got an access to a great speaker or whatever, I don't see any problem with however long a list we want to make of good ideas for topics, should we be able to pull it off.
Yeah, no, if we gave a good lecture and people learned something, I wouldn't care whether it happened. I mean, we may have something to do with getting it together, but whether it happens here or in another
On
town.
the
I'm
topic
gonna
of
educate.
Basie, you know, they gave a good list of plans, but that's what they were short on how to dispose of them.
But if we,
Yeah.
actually, in the following work of the resilience group. Like the second proposal, right, which might be like, okay, that grant might be about raising money for the land, that's what we're gonna do with the land if we get that acquired.
Right,
So.
we need to do a forest management plan.
But part of that process is what kind of community engagement have you done?
Right,
Yeah,
so we get,
and that's
we had two
exactly, that's
lectures
what
on forest.
when I was talking about the consultant coming here, and you will definitely set us up to determine what it is that we envision to be done, and that cannot be just us. I mean, we can submit something, but it will be again a town, you know, decision on what would people want to do with the land. I mean,
Right.
we as conservation people want to protect it. I mean, and maybe that's what the town is voted in the article, actually, to protect it, but, you know, then within the protection, you know, what are the parameters or what actions we can have.
Well, if
in
the
it.
town can derive value from it and it still maintains its
Yeah.
integrity, I'm not opposed to that.
Mm.
I just put, consider the history of, the history of the lectures you have, and always keep in mind that if there's a grant coming up, or we know that there's a grant that's gonna be applied for, it would be, when we have a choice between this speaker and this speaker. Well, take speaker A, because there's a segue between what they're talking about and what we're trying to get grant money, so when they ask the question, what's the community done, you can say, well, listen, we sponsored the beach specifically about this topic, you know, yeah, all right, that's good, very good. Report on the June 5th Climate Resilience Resource Workshop hosted by the GMRI.
Gulf of Maine Research Institute.
Thank you very much. Gulf of Maine Research Institute, Island Institute, rather, at the
Meet
Maine
Coast
Coast
Council of
Government.
Government.
Mid Coast Council of Government.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to try to be brief. Nancy Goslin and I attended from South Thomaston. This was a workshop to make local citizens and members of conservation commissions, select boards, whatever, aware of resources to deal with resilience needs. And they put together a really terrific program. And the part I'm sorry about is how lightly it was attended. There were 20, maybe 24 people signed up to come. We were just about outnumbered by the presenters and the organizers and their interns. It was a great day. There was some information was just not applicable to a little town like us that uses well and septic and does not have a water treatment plant. But there was a lot that was useful for us as well. They organized it, they had 9 presenters. Some of them were engineering outfits. Some of them, they had the, where's my list? They had Maine Community Resilience Partnership talking about climate financing, Nature-Based Solutions, which was a terrific guy from the Maine Geological Survey who was talking about projects to use natural materials instead of building seawalls to deal with shoreline erosion. There was another outfit called Coastwise, which is under the umbrella of the Maine Coastal Program under the Department of Marine Resources, that had these programs on how you deal with tidal overflows of roads and into culverts, and those particularly struck me as things that would be interesting for us to pursue, or South Thomaston. Some of the, particularly the engineering outfits, were focused on things like, one of them was working with Booth Bay Harbor to save its water treatment plant, which is going to be underwater given expected sea level rise. That is, the stuff that's really into heavy infrastructure is not stuff that's useful for us, but those guys have some interesting approaches to vulnerability assessments. And then all of them were tossing out ideas about grants available and mentoring available. So I've got some handouts. The one thing that the University of Maine and a bunch of collaborators has put together is this thing called the Maine Community Resilience Workbook, which is just full of ideas and who you can go to with your problems.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, there are so many, there are no silos, some even, sections, everybody has a program and some money. It's like, at some point, if we can build a tree or definitely a directory of, people to contact, or websites even where to go to learn on various topics, but
What to shake.
yeah, I mean, it's like
so
there's
huge.
so
It's
much
just
out there,
amazing.
it's all overlapping one way or another, and
Well, that's part of what your group is.
No, I mean, the greenhouse thing was purely just volunteer. We said this is good to stay in touch, keep track of what's going on. I tend to think of, like, you're right, it's like the dots are not connected, and the way that you follow separation by the way the funding works in the federal and state level, and it's earmarked certain ways. So I tend to think of, like, you pick a topic, and find out who's related to that.
Right.
So what's the project? And then who can we tap on for that?
Right, it's part of the grant money.
Rather than find the project in the grants.
Right.
And talk to as many people as possible so that you can start emerging and being on their radar, and when it's like that, then they send you relevant information when they get it, and, it's all building a network. And
So it's a responsibility for a conservation commission to do that. The benefit being is that if there's a body of knowledge, that kind of knowledge on the conservation commission is that when the town runs into a project that's a high cost project. We sit back there and say, okay, this is the way that I see that we can work this into a grant proposal. Here's the logic. And here's who we need to offer this to.
I think,
See if there's even a chance.
if we can do that, that would be a great skill and asset to the town.
Well, if-
Okay,
if-
I'd like to offer. One of the things that came up repeatedly was how helpful it is to have an overview for your town or your community of where your vulnerabilities are. That you start with that, you start having a picture of, okay, if sea level rises this much, how much trouble are we in and where? And whatever the other issues are, some kind of framework to put it all into, so you're not just saying, well, somebody mentioned greenhouse gas, let's go after that. It in a context of the whole picture.
Right.
And there are outfits that do this kind of assessment, and there is grant money to pay the outfits to do that kind of assessment. And that might be one way to start saying, okay, and now we know that these are the 6 things that we really need to pursue. But I'm not sure at this point that South Thomaston, I think it's almost as if we're opportunistically, like this land offer came up, so we deal with it. But
So,
we aren't doing it in a framework.
Well, I just wrote down here to share with you the work that we had to do, which actually was looking at in the community resilience project was like, okay, what are the risks? And we had to.
What are the risks?
What are the risks?
Okay.
And part of that included reaching out to get the emergency action plan, going to the board of selectmen, getting their issues in terms of what was, and there were broad categories in that. It wasn't just about greenhouse gases or anything, there were broad categories. So share that, so we'll say, well, is this an early framework of knowledge in terms of what the risk that we found? It may not be right at the time, but it's what we found. There's some work done in that regard, is what I want to say.
Right.
Yeah, the one thing that, to the extent that I was aware of how the Community Resilience Committee was proceeding, was that they were asking their neighbors and, or ask the select board, you got any issues? What that didn't do was say, let's bring in an expert who will look at our situation and help us see what we're not seeing. That's the difference.
Yeah.
So it's just, down the road, it's something that we might think about doing, that a lot of our neighboring communities are doing. For example, St. George and Rockport basically use their community resilience grants to get that kind of assessment.
I mean, there is, obviously the coastal erosion, there is, but, on the roads, the communication, we have culverts, we fixed one by Spruce, but, there is one at Dublin who is getting pretty low. And if that, gets cut off, that's it, I'm moving to Househead, being a net
The
by.
town road or a state road?
Well, it's a state road, but that's the same thing, we are leaving town and we have to use that road, so being aware that it becomes an emergency. And maybe, developing, that's it, a plan where we are aware of the flash points. And maybe develop triggers, when do we need to take action on, when does it become an unbearable risk? And, because we have limited resources, no matter what we do, so we have to prioritize actions.
Have you
But-
told the, because the selectmen would probably be able to call the state on that, if it's a state road.
But same thing, the state goes through a budget and they need to establish.
But do they even know about it, I guess? is the
Yeah, that's
question.
the-
It could take 8 years to fix the culvert, you better bring it up now.
Yeah.
But that's the key, it's like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
need an authority and it's not Catherine Lamb saying, oh, we
Yeah,
need to
I
build
think-
a culvert.
Yeah,
Does anybody know about it
Yeah.
besides the immediate people?
Yeah,
Same
the
thing.
Dublin people know it, but we would need, him saying, an expert, like Sandra said, coming and saying, these are definitely your flash points of, dangerous things, your exposures to.
Yeah.
To resiliency,
First thing, we look at state and know the
That,
dangers.
meeting I went to down to St. George and West, West, whatever. West. God, why I don't talk, I can't come up with people's names. That was what St. George did. They got the grant and they did this, they had all these fun toys to play with, like drones and things in the water too,
Right.
that were powered, and they were investigating all the places where the town was vulnerable
Right.
to the rising water,
Right,
both coming down and coming up from the ocean.
yeah, I put down on the list of environmental risk list. As a possible, this is to be discussed at our next meeting on those topics that we wanted to vote.
Keeping the roads open, we could do a survey easily just by driving around and making a list of the low points.
Right,
There's two low points on Dublin Road. One of them is actually in the town of Owl's Head, just beyond you. One before that, just down here
So the
in the
next-
village.
the next king tide, we'll go drive around town and see how close the water is to the roads, right?
Well, we can just drive around and make a list of the low spots to
Right.
begin with, and we know where to go
Yeah.
when the next king tide comes.
All right, I just, as I said, that's part of the list, and at the next meeting, we can discuss this, and 'cause I figure whatever the list is, if it has 9 things on it, or 6 things, we can pick 2 or 3, and that's where we should put our efforts at this point, but.
I'm not aware of any land flooding recently, if you look at Camden, which had a road wash off, with the runoff waters, I mean. I'm not aware of any area within the town that has been really damaged during big storms.
Yeah, but we. could-
Yes,
we
I
could-
know, but it's like, that's comforting to know that it has not happened yet, we are not. in
All right.
worse shape.
But there are experts who can do simulations.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think in 3 different topics now we've discussed, and it sort of comes up is to get experience. To look at it, get people with expertise to
Yeah.
look at whatever the situation was, so that's one thing that we've come back to 3 times now, this is the ability to bring in people that can give us viable information, right, okay. Under new business, we did that list of volunteers, I wrote that just for
No.
myself, correspondence, we don't have any correspondence coming in.
Wait a minute, you jumped
do?
discussion of the
Reestablishment,
ordinance problem. And just before I get to that, because I need to mention it, I probably will not be at the next meeting. I will be in Montana in a cabin in the Bitterroot, which I doubt has internet access.
guarantee it doesn't right now.
Well, who knows? Anyway, and it will be the first meeting after town meeting, so it will be time to elect officers. And I wouldn't mind being chair next time. Just letting you know, because I can't, only people who are present can vote. So,
I don't have a problem with by statute, do we have to do it, or could it be postponed until the next meeting? Could we make a motion to carry over the existing board members?
no, I think it's in our ordinance.
Okay, I'll take a look. If there's a way that we can put it off until the full board's here, I'm happy to accept it, so if anybody can do that. Fine, but- All right, go ahead.
It's a very simple. yes or no answer. Anyway, so we have an interesting wrinkle. I thought about this a couple of years ago and it wasn't at the top of the list, so we have an interesting wrinkle. The main statute provides that powers of the commission, this is the discretionary authority, includes the commission may acquire land in the municipality's name for any of the purposes set forth in this section with the approval of the municipal legislative body, which would be town meeting. And following on that, our reestablishment ordinance says that the commission may, in the name of the town and with the approval of town meeting, acquire land, easements, or other interests in real property. At least 30 days prior to making any recommendations to the select board pursuant to this section. It's already screwy because now you've got us authorized to acquire land, but then we have to get the approval of the select board. And before we do that, we have to go to the planning board. Basically, what struck me as screwy, back when I first read the ordinance when we were reestablished, was we are in no position ever to do that. In this
Just
little
take land,
town,
accept land.
we're a bunch of people appointed by the select board. We just are not in a position to actually acquire land. What we do is what we did this time, is recommend to the select board that it looks to us like it would be a great idea to acquire this land. And over to you guys. You know, you make the decision, you do the legal negotiating, you make the presentation to town meeting. So it turned into an interesting small issue. If any of you remember what happened at the informational meeting is that Irv Curtis on the planning board said, but you didn't come to us. You should have come to us. And the Q's and A's respond to that saying, no, this is not the process that was being used. The process was that the select board is in charge. And all we did was give them a recommendation. And we are not acquiring land in name of the town.
I had said exactly that at the planning board meeting when, you know, he received a letter, that's what he stated, of somebody, you know, inquiring why, you know, this land purchase was not coming to the planning board and that it ought to go to the planning board first. And I said, well, we are definitely not purchasing anything. We are acting just in an advisory capacity to the select board, and the offer was presented to the select board and not to us. Therefore, the topic was moved, and you know, still pursuing that tack. So
Anyway, let me just finish the thought. So even before Irv made that comment, at the budget meetings, Walter said, I think this is screwy. The provision there, somebody should look at it. It would be impossibly messy to try ever to use that authority. And the fact that it's written in our ordinance creates the kind of question that Irv raised.
So
it has now been referred to the Ordinance Review Committee, and which is led by Jeff Northgraves, who is very
on top of all these issues.
he's got a lot of expertise in this. But this is and so that's where it sits down right now. I just want you to be aware that the issue came up. My personal thought is that we should amend our ordinance to eliminate that authority, which just does. might be appropriate in, I don't know, maybe the city of Portland has a conservation commission
It
that
has
has some kind of independence, has some kind of separate funding authority. This is not us in Little South Thomaston. We should not go near this. So we'll see what happens, but I think down the road, we should try to amend.
I think.
Our
that's the way
ordinance to
to go.
remove it.
So you say Jeff and the review board, so they might recommend revising the ordinance, no? Don't you think?
I think it's highly likely.
Yes, so.
Yeah,
that's it.
so that,
it's
I
being
just
managed.
wanted this not to come as a surprise to you folks
All right,
when we get to the next step.
yeah, I just, there's another list under the things that we want to try to accomplish in the coming year. I just promote the review and possible changes to ordinance, right?
Well, that's the only one I know of.
Right, yeah.
I wasn't suggesting that we do a deep search of.
Oh, no,
all
it's just that
ordinance,
one
just
issue, yeah.
that one issue,
Yeah. Okay.
but that one, I'm sure everybody here would have had more sense than ever to try
But
to use
it's
that
already in
authority.
process, so nothing
Yeah.
is needed from
No,
us at this point.
No, this is
Okay.
just to inform you of where things stand.
I mean, fortunately, there's not a lot of pushback against this that I've heard. You could be in a situation where there is, and you don't want this kind of ambiguity
Yeah.
around you.
Right.
Yeah, all right, anything else with anybody, because I'm down a correspondence, the items for next agenda, which I've kind of been keeping track of up there. Does anybody have anything else they want to add to the next agenda? Okay,
You have, that I'll bring you the.
I will.
okay. All right, so this is, that would be under correspondence will come in, is that all set up? So, I have number 8, which is a possibility of adjourning. If I had a-
Now, you, wait a minute, you can always say, without objection,
Oh,
the meeting
thank you.
is adjourned.
Yeah, that's the main part. Without objection. Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you. I could say minutes.
Yes, you can. And Linda won't have to write anything.
What's your damage?
Oh, what?
Did you hurt your knee or your back?
Oh, my back, but it's,
It comes and goes.
yeah,
Getting older.
I don't know. Well,
Hurt myself in my sleep. Oh, have the time of your life out there. Is this failing?
well, it's family and then Andy's,
I went to get
Yeah,
Andy's job for years has been music festival.
yeah.
And so that's, there's the Montana. We combine it with
Yeah, nice.
family business.
Nice.
And then I'll keep going because I have friends in Boulder and friends in California, so I won't be back till the end of July.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I used to live in Montana.
Here,
Whitefish, Montana.
Where's Whitefish?
Glacier Empire.
Yeah, that's me.
Oh,
right
I
there.
love- well, I loved Glacier. We went there years ago. Andy said, we have to go before the glaciers are gone. And oh, Lord,
I know.
I know. It's easy. Wait a minute, let me show you.
You know what, because I don't use a,
Yeah.
Yeah, but I have it, I have that in the spreadsheet.
That's
so-
common.
you know what, because I don't use this kind of, I have a, like a mouse mouse.
I
and I'm
have
like,
a mouse
Where is my mouse?
But yes, we don't have a choice, so we go here.
Can you send me an email?
Using this.
Thanks.
I can, I have it in the spreadsheet.
Oh, wait, oh, you know what? Oh,
Yeah. I used to build a map.
Well,